And in this video, I want to help you just to become a bit more grounded in your understanding of how it is that we each experience life. Because how we see and how we perceive is going to determine how we go on to experience. And what's true for us is also going to be true for our future clients if we open the doors and become available to practice hypnosis on other people. You've got to understand, when people have problems in life, they more often than not only ever have problems on an emotional level. I mean, if you think about this really practically, if I was to ask you right now, do you have any problems in life? Well, based upon your perspective, your perception, and how you see things, you're going to be responding in a number of different ways, or potentially just one. You might be saying something like, there is no problems, there's only solutions. In which case, I'm going to say, fantastic, my friend, that's a fantastic perspective to embrace in life. There's going to be some people who are saying, yes, my whole life's a problem, I have loads of problems. But here's the thing, whether you have any problems or whether you don't have any problems isn't the main thing here. What I want to ask you is, how would you know whether you had a problem in your life or whether you didn't? And the answer is, you know, because of your emotions. Our emotions are kind of like this internal GPS that tell us when things are going well and when things perhaps aren't going quite as idealistic as what we hoped they would. When we become better tuned with our senses, we become better tuned in our interactions with other people. And the reason why this is important, because I've already mentioned, the quality and the caliber of our life is always going to be influenced by the quality and the caliber of the relationships that we keep. So if we want to improve and enhance the quality of our relationships, and here's the thing, as a hypnosis practitioner, you're going to have to become an absolute master at managing relationships. If you want to do this, it's imperative that we understand what I want to share with you now, which is our internal representational processing. Now, this might seem like another really complex term, but I promise you it's not. It's just how it is that we experience life on a sensory level, if that makes sense. I mean, right now, you are watching this video, right? Now, if I was just to disclose here a little bit and explain to you why it is that I teach and present the way in which I do, you might think, my goodness, Kane, that's quite an illustrative board you have going on in the background. Nice plant to the left of you. Oh, like your shirt. I see you take a bit of pride in your appearance. What I understand is that some people have an inclination and a preference to operate out of more of a visual style. All right? Some people respond to life visually. Have you ever known a visual learner? For example, when I was in school, I can remember sitting in my classroom in front of my teacher who would be reading out some information from a book, and then I would get asked a couple of questions, and it's like my head was just empty. Right? I have always found it extremely difficult to retain information given to me in an oral way, i.e. spoken word. Whereas if you show me an image, if you give me some pictures, some diagrams, something like this, if you were to give me a 5-minute tutorial, I will remember because I'll be watching and learning in a visual way. Now, what I'm going to suggest here is our representational processing and our natural preferences can change over time. And they will change over time when we become more vested into relating to other people more effectively. So if you actually genuinely do want to become a hypnosis practitioner, then what's going to be important at the end of this video is that you understand and are able to identify how it is that you process your day-to-day experience. All right? Because representational processing is just simply, in layman's terms, how we internalize our external life experiences. For example, in the classroom, you're watching a video right now. What you might be more buying into is the visuals on the board, or you might be more buying into the way in which I communicate, or you might notice that I'm quite an emotional guy, so I do incorporate some emotion into my teaching. Why? Why is it that I develop, and why have I developed such a diverse teaching style, if you like? Well, over the years I understand that if I want to engage with the largest possible audience, then I need to create training courses that are going to engage with all of the different representational styles, i.e. I want to connect with people on a visual level. I want to connect with people on a kinesthetic level, which is just our feelings, our senses, right? Do you feel warmed to me? Do you not feel warmed to me? If you don't feel warmed to me right now, you've most likely already switched off and you're away at a Starbucks or something like that. If you are, or if you have warmed to me, you're still going to be watching on. And now I'm sharing with you why it is that you do feel warm to me, because I've incorporated some emotional content into the videos that I've shared so far. If you've warmed to me, if you're liking what you're hearing and what you're seeing right now, that's going to be because the video is visually appealing. We've done a good job with the video editing, or you like the images on the board, or if you are liking the course because of what I'm saying, it sounds good, you're embracing the spoken word, and you might be more inclined to retain information more from my spoken word. What I'm saying is, as a hypnosis practitioner, it's your role to understand the 5 different ways that people experience life on a visual level, on a kinesthetic level, on an auditory level, on a gustatory level, which is actually just our taste. You don't have to worry about that so much. And on an olfactory level, smell. Now this can be relevant. I can remember when I was studying counselling, I was studying therapeutic counselling around about maybe 10 or 11 years ago. I was studying this course part-time, and one of my instructors had a real smell about her. If I was going to be completely honest, she stank. She stank of body odour. It wasn't a pleasant smell whatsoever. Now, me being me, having come from a military background, my standards in terms of personal hygiene were generally always quite high. So when I would come face to face with a person who had body odour, I would see this, I would representationally process this as being poor hygiene, because that's what had been instilled into me in terms of beliefs throughout my time in the military. So I had become distracted in terms of the information that was being presented to me from my instructor because of her body odour. Now I'm just being honest, but you've got to understand, if you could think of any people that you have in your life right now that just rub you up the wrong way, right? Just, you might have a boss or a family member or a colleague or a neighbour or one of your friends who isn't really a friend, who just associates himself with you because of the social circle that you keep or something like this. But if I was asked to ask you now to focus right in, and not focus on just the fact that you dislike this person or that you don't quite connect with this person, but as to the reason why. And see if you could make a connection on a visual level, on a kinesthetic level, on an auditory level, on a gustatory level, which I'm hoping won't be the case for you, or an olfactory level. There's going to be a specific reason why you don't connect with this person. It might be because of how they look. Now, if you think about this on a grand scale, on a global scale, think about the nations that will go to war with nations because of difference. When a person will not unconditionally accept the differences of another person, it becomes dislike. Dislike can become hatred. Hatred becomes war, which is one of the main reasons why half the world is at war and always has been at war. But war starts within people, when people will not unconditionally accept the differences in others. So we experience people, we experience life visually. If we like what we see, then we like what we see. If we don't like what we see, then we don't like. And we would sometimes tarnish an entire movie or an entire group of people or an entire course like this or an entire book or a movie or whatever, just because we weren't engaged visually in the way in which we wanted to be engaged. All right, so it's important we understand this when connecting with other people. In terms of how it is that we present ourselves and conduct ourselves, in terms of how we are going to be received visually by others, it's something to be aware of. On a kinesthetic level, some people who operate more out of the rational part of their mind are going to struggle with this. All right, and that pretty much makes up half the world population, all right? So what I'm saying here is if we do not connect and engage in life on a kinesthetic level, then the way in which we communicate and the way in which we interact with other people, we're going to be pretty much blocking out and disengaging, as I've mentioned, half of the world population. So when we're aware that half of the world population does experience life on a kinesthetic level, then it actually requires us to change. Remember, people will not change in life until their desire to change becomes greater than their desire to remain the same. Hypnosis is all about channeling through the limitations of our perception and how we see things to establish the truth of what it is that other people need from us in order to remain engaged. I'm laying the foundations for healthy, strong relationships first and foremost, because hypnosis is all about influencing people. And here's the thing, a person who does not trust you will not be influenced by you. And a person is not going to trust you unless they like what they see, unless they get a good sense and a good feeling about you, unless they like what they hear, and as long as you smell good and taste good, well, that's it, you're a good apple. What I'm saying here is how we internalize our external life experiences determines what we like and don't like. If you want to connect and engage with other people in life, you've got to be aware of the 5 ways in which other human beings are going to be experiencing you. In the same way, you're going to be experiencing me in this course right now on those 5 levels, apart from taste and smell, because it's a video-based course. But if I'm doing a reasonably good job at communicating in a creative way, if I'm incorporating a little bit of feeling, emotional into my vocabulary, into my language, that's going to determine how engaged you remain. And what's true between you and me right now is also going to be true between you and your future clients if you ever make it that far. You with me? So representational processing, it's a basic idea, but it's something that we don't really get taught in school. And it should be taught in school, because if we were taught this in school, then I reckon that pretty much the entire world population would be able to appreciate difference far more effectively than what the world currently does. When we just simply acknowledge that other people see things different from us, other people hear things different from us, the way in which other people perceive life and events is always going to be different from us, then we come to better appreciate that the perspective that we are operating out of is ours and ours alone. And unless we're committed to the process of fully understanding other people and other people's perspectives, then we're never going to win the trust of these other people, so that ultimately they lend us their eyes, their ears, the fullness of their attention, so that we can lead them into hypnotic states and ultimately influence their perception.